Dear Mr. Simons, Mr. Smith, and the entire FTC. Upon reviewing the details of YouTube's landmark $170 million settlement regarding its alleged violations of the COPPA legislation, and the looming changes regarding enforcement of COPPA with respect to the business practices of YouTube and other websites, I felt an urgent need to share with you my concerns regarding the likely ramifications and potentially devastating consequences of these actions for thousands of people across America and around the world. Furthermore, these actions may prove to have unintended consequences which could negatively impact children around the world. Ironically, the very same group of people that this legislation is designed to protect. We all understand the importance of keeping children safe and protecting them from harm, and we acknowledge that all children should be safeguarded from any potential dangers and abuses that they could fall victim to as a result of their online browsing. We do, however, also recognize that any measures taken to achieve this goal should not be taken without first forming a full, comprehensive understanding of the potentially disastrous repercussions that these actions may have for various groups of people across the globe. Your impending enforcement measures deeply threaten YouTube content creators in a number of ways. In response to your recent action, YouTube will have no choice but to make changes to the way it organizes and promotes videos. This will result in blunt segregation of all content into two categories: made for kids and not made for kids. The content deemed not made for kids will continue to be presented on the YouTube main site, continue to be found in searches in YouTube, continue to be shown in the suggestions sidebar of potentially interested viewers, and continue to have viewer-targeted advertisements run on them. By contrast, made-for-kids content will only be found on the separate YouTube Kids app or site, meaning they won't ever appear on the YouTube main site. While this segregation may not present a major issue for content creators who specifically target their content towards viewers 13 and over, it does, however, present an extremely grisly conundrum for creators who post content which is suitable for all ages. Take as a hypothetical example a YouTuber who has spent several years posting content which appeals to general audiences and continues to do so. Let's say the channel's audience is comprised of the following demographics: 20% children 12 and under, and 80% viewers 13 and up. Clearly, COPPA enforcement will put the creator in an extremely awkward position. If the creator classifies the content as not for kids, based on the vast majority of the channel audience, the creator risks everything from demonetization to removal of videos to channel deletion to government litigation, all due to the fact that a portion of the audience is comprised of children. On the other hand, if the creator classifies the content as made for kids, the content will be exiled to YouTube Kids and will not be accessible on the main YouTube site. This essentially means that the channel will be cut off from the bulk of its intended audience. What's more, the creator will lose access to several important site features such as comments, the notification bell, and end screens. The loss of these features will further hamper the creator's ability to grow the channel audience, reach new viewers, and interact with current viewers. Another serious consideration pertaining to this discussion is the devastating impact that the legislation will likely have on the incentive for creators to continue generating made-for-kids and/or general audience content. Of particular note, the removal of viewer-targeted ads and the placement of contextual ads in their stead is expected to cause a sharp reduction of revenue for affected content creators. It is estimated that they will see 60% to 90% of their revenue stream disappear instantly. While it may be difficult for government officials to see this situation from the perspective of content creators and to empathize with them, consider for a moment the far-reaching consequences of this revenue disappearance. First of all, as affected content creators see their revenue stream dry up, they will be faced with the question of whether or not it is financially viable for them to continue pursuing their video making passion. For most, the answer to this question will inevitably be no. This will result in a lose-lose scenario for various groups of people. Not only will creators be forced to abandon their passion, but many small online media businesses will be forced to lay off workers or perhaps even fold completely. This, in turn, may have an adverse effect on the economy and contribute to unemployment. Secondly, this mass departure of content creators from YouTube will lead to a sharp decline in the amount of child-appropriate content available for children to watch online. Despite this sudden disappearance of child-friendly content, children will continue to access the YouTube main site in search of entertaining videos. This means that they will be more likely than ever to access disturbing, scary, unsafe, and/or mature content that is not suitable for them. Thirdly, viewers of age 13 and up will also suffer, because much of the general audience content that they had been enjoying for so long will suddenly disappear from YouTube's main site and will only be accessible on the YouTube Kids site or app. Once there, they will sadly discover that many of their favorite content creators are no longer making content and have shut down their channels. For the ones who still remain, viewers will not be able to interact with them via comments, will not have access to the notification bell to alert them about new videos, and will not be able to chat with other viewers of the channel, and will not be able to interact with the creator in real time during live streams. All of these lost features will have a cumulative degrading effect on the viewer's experience while using the platform. This, in turn, will mean fewer viewers will want to access the general audience content on YouTube Kids, which will result in even more creators leaving the platform due to declining audiences. Another group which will be hurt by this situation is advertisers themselves. A large, sudden reduction in the amount of content appearing on YouTube will mean that there will be fewer places where companies can promote their products to potential customers. This will lead to an increase in prices for online advertising. Furthermore, the switch from targeted ads to contextual ads means that impressions of these ads will result in far fewer actual customer purchases. In this scenario, everyone loses. The advertiser loses, the content creator loses, YouTube loses, and the viewer loses, since the viewer is less likely to be introduced to a product that pertains to his or her needs. At this point, it should be clear that enforcing COPPA, in the way that Mr. Smith described in the September 4th press conference, will ultimately cause much more harm than good, and will be especially devastating for general audience content creators, as well as made-for-kids channels with modest audiences. It is clear that more effort needs to be put into exploring other ways of protecting children's privacy. Your proposed heavy-handed, brute force approach will destroy many people's lives, but it will not solve the problem of data being collected from children without parental consent. It is fairly obvious that many children access the main YouTube site without parental consent, and this will continue to be the case regardless of which actions your agency chooses to take against content creators. This ultimately is what highlights the actual root cause of this issue: insufficient adult supervision of child online activities. It would be egregiously remiss to ignore the fact that many parents aren't taking enough proper measures to ensure that their children are not accessing websites that are clearly not intended for children, such as YouTube's main site. Your approach to COPPA enforcement seems to involve placing all the onus, risk, and accountability on content creators, while continuing to look the other way regarding the complacency and lack of due diligence that many parents and schools have when it comes to monitoring their students' online activities. To be frank, I think it is neither fair nor decent to completely let parents off the hook like this and then turn around and use child privacy as justification for taking such sweeping punitive measures against online content creators. In light of the current situation, here's what I'm asking of your agency. 1. Extend the deadline for COPPA compliance for YouTube content creators by an additional 2 months to allow creators more time to make sense of the current situation and make necessary adjustments. 2. Create a parental consent exemption in 16 CFR Section 312.5c applicable to operators of general audience YouTube channels, provided that they include the following disclaimer in both their channel descriptions and the video description of each video. Important notice for parents. This channel is appropriate for all ages, but is intended primarily for viewers 13 and up. If your child is under the age of 13, please make sure that your child is viewing this channel through the YouTube Kids site or app, rather than the YouTube website. Doing this will help protect your child's privacy and prevent personal information from being collected. Thank you. 3. Create a parental consent exemption in 16 CFR Section 312.5c applicable to YouTube channels, including made-for-kids channels, with modest audience sizes, as long as their audience size remains modest. In this context, modest audience size could, for example, mean that the channel has fewer than 10 million total views, and no single video on the channel has reached 500,000 views. To help creators comply with this legal framework, require that YouTube take the following action for all of its channels. Immediately send an official notice to the operators of a channel when it reaches or that has already reached a threshold which indicates that it is no longer a channel of modest audience size. Upon reaching such a threshold, the channel will be reviewed to determine if it is primarily made for kids, and if it is deemed to be so, it will no longer be exempt from the parental consent requirement under COPPA and must be in compliance from that point onward. However, if the channel is deemed to be general audience channel, it will continue to be exempt from the parental consent requirement under the condition described earlier. 4. Require that YouTube take measures to make it harder for children to access YouTube's main site, especially without parental consent. Work with YouTube to figure out specifically what mechanisms could potentially be put into place to divert a child away from the YouTube website, while also increasing the parent's awareness of the child's attempts to access the YouTube website. 5. Launch a public awareness campaign, emphasizing to parents as well as teachers and principals of elementary schools the importance of monitoring their children's online activities and informing everyone of the fact that YouTube's website collects personal data from its viewers. All parents should be notified that, if they don't want such data to be collected from the devices that their children are using to view videos, they should prevent their children from accessing the YouTube website and should instead enable their children to access the YouTube Kids site or app, which is a safe place where data won't be collected. Also, encourage government officials of other countries to undertake similar public awareness efforts in their countries. More than anything, I urge all government officials and the public at large to come to the realization that it is ultimately the responsibility of parents, with the help of schools, to keep a watchful eye on their children's online activities, and to keep a close track of which websites their children are visiting, and which apps their children are accessing. Data-driven advertising plays an important role in today's economy, as it assists consumers in quickly finding products that meet their needs, and in turn, helps companies promote their products to potentially interested customers in an efficient manner. Simply put, data-driven advertising is enormously beneficial to not only specific groups of people, but also to the public at large. With this in mind, I hope that you will reconsider your rather scornful view of YouTube's data-driven advertising system and YouTube content creators. Thank you. That was the letter that I sent to the FTC. Now I'm going to take a moment and talk about my situation specifically. The first thing that I want to mention is that I feel rather disturbed by Andrew Smith's description of YouTube content creators as fish in a barrel that need to be culled. Those are actually terrifying words when you think about it. It highlights a spiteful, almost hostile attitude that they seem to have towards us. And I gotta say, it has me somewhat worried about the future. What worries me more than anything else is that the FTC doesn't seem to recognize that most content creators on YouTube are good people who have the purest of intentions and who don't want any harm to come to anyone, and who just want to be able to pursue their passion online while putting smiles on faces. As a YouTuber myself, it brings me happiness to know that I'm providing videos and live streams to people who want to watch them. It brings me even more joy anytime anyone tells me that I've made their day. This is what keeps me going on YouTube. At the same time, though, I would love to be able to grow my channel and make it a career out of this. But now, the FTC seems to be putting all this at risk. My channel is an all-ages channel, meaning that it is meant to appeal to general audiences. The primary intended audience is viewers 13 and up, but I strive to make sure that we maintain a positive, respectful environment here, where children ages 8 to 12 can safely watch without having to worry about profanity, hate speech, mature themes, or other inappropriate content or behavior. I pride myself in making sure this is a place where every visitor to my channel feels like they are respected and appreciated during their visit. For the FTC to pigeonhole me and people like me as blood-sucking piranhas who need to be shot, metaphorically or otherwise, well, these types of comments not only show disdain for reality, but they also seem to convey a somewhat ominous message about what the future might hold. If I'm forced to designate my channel as made for kids and get exiled to the YouTube Kids platform, I'll lose access to any potential new viewers and new subscribers who are not children 12 and under. And I'll lose tons of site features, meaning it'll be virtually impossible for me to grow my channel in any significant way. And it's no secret that thousands of YouTubers out there are just like me and are facing this same difficult situation. On a personal note, I'm a Canadian citizen. I'm not an American citizen, and I've never even been to the US. The fact that government officials of a country that I don't even live in can make decisions that may have an enormous impact on my life, well, I find it to be rather unsettling. Why should a government that I didn't even have an opportunity to vote for or against have such power over my life? It's rather disturbing when you think about it. At this point, all I can say is that I'll be keeping a close eye on the situation, and if the need arises to make a follow-up video on this topic, I'll do that. In the meantime, thank you so much to everyone who watched this video all the way through to the end. I know it's tempting to click away from videos that are long and aren't particularly entertaining, like this one, but I thank you once again for sticking with me. See you at the next stream. Cheers!